Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Site Owner Academy, as well as a podcast episode and a video on YouTube. Make sure that you're on all those things, okay? And after this presentation, we're gonna go back to the Site Owner Academy and discuss Q&A with privately, not on the air, not recording. So, because that's what we do in the Site Owner Academy. If you're interested, let me know. Today, Chris, we're doing one on site specifics during clinical research site selection visits. So basically, what sites should know about site selection visits, what to expect, things like that. This is for the more research naive sites, maybe that never had a site selection visit, or maybe you're an employee that's about to experience your first site selection visit at a company.
This is a good one.
It should be a good topic.
We've done this before, but it's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah. We've probably done just about everything, but it's always good to go back.
Yep.
So I haven't looked at these slides, so I don't know. But we can move on to the slides and see how Carlos did with the slides. So you want to do this first one? First impressions matter. This is all you.
Sure. First impressions matter, and that's absolutely correct. You only make a first impression one time. Most sites will struggle to get a sponsor's attention and secure a site selection visit. Absolutely. So it takes a lot of work to get to the point of site selection visit. And once you are at that point, it's your study to lose. You've essentially been awarded the study, not entirely, but essentially, if you've made it to the site selection visit. So there's a lot of steps that get you to that point.
Right.
The process of getting an SSV is complicated because sites must first secure study leads, submit feasibility surveys, negotiate a budget. So negotiating a budget, that's not exactly correct. You're not doing that prior to the site selection visit. Submit all necessary essential documents. Sometimes that's the case, but usually not as well before the site selection visit. Meet pre-selection requirements, and that's true too. So two of these bullet points are a little misleading, I think, but the rest of that's absolutely correct. Sponsors carefully choose which sites to send monitors for SIVs. If you're getting an SIV, you are very likely to be awarded the study. No, if you have an SIV, you've already been awarded the study. Again, that's a little confusing too. So Carlos is a little off this week on this one so far.
Yeah, we need to tell him. Sponsors carefully choose which sites to send monitors for SSVs. He should have put. If you are getting an SSV, you are very likely to be awarded the study. So that's a typo on the bottom bullet point. Because SIV, as you know, you've already been awarded the study. So Carlos 0 for 1 so far on the slides. 0 for 1 on the slides, but the concept, the concepts and the heart is still there with Carlos. So we'll give him a pass.
Two of the bullet points would be a little off. Those are more in regards to the SIV. So he's combining the two on the slide.
Basically combining startup events.
Yes.
So time essentially SIV. Yeah, time. Time is all we got, guys. Okay, monitors must take a site's availability into consideration. If the site seems too busy, the monitor might not recommend the site. This is true. If they're also, the opposite is true. If the site seems not to be too busy, it's kind of a red flag. So it's a good balance in between. One of the ways monitors gauge how busy the site might be is by observing the number of patients that are present, maybe in the waiting room or just in the office that they can observe during site selection visits. Small sites that look busy or have limited space might not be able to handle more patients from a new study. Alternatively, the site might not seem so busy when the site is large and has many rooms for infusion, and there's just something weird about seeing an empty waiting room. And this is something you and I are doing. We're working on getting a doctor in one of our sites who's going to be full-time private practice, and for this exact reason, right? We even mentioned it to him. It's going to present really well for site selection visits.
Yep, that's a big part of it. And in addition to just easier to recruit patients if you're aligned with some sort of practice.
Right.
All right, next slide.
Very good. Next slide. Space for studies. I like this picture of this guy. That's Chris working in this old office before we upgraded.
And then the
It's a
basement.
guy in a cardboard box, looks like, or something. But basically, the size of the research site and number of rooms available can influence the outcome of the SSV. Uh, Even the size of the monitoring room can impact the SSV. Monitors would like to know that they have private space when they go monitor, and having a lack of space can even pose privacy concerns for monitors and for patients. Monitors will make sure that the site also has space for regulatory binders, lab kits, study supplies, shipping boxes. There's a lot of under discussed space requirements
Oh,
for research
absolutely.
sites. I mean, can you expand on this thought?
Well, no, I mean, Carlos did a good job listing the items that do take up space, but it doesn't really convey how much space these items really take up. So if you're doing, say, 5 studies, that's a lot of things to store. So I would say the boxes on average are what, about at least the ones with the frozen, with the dry
Yeah.
ice. I would say they're like two cubic feet. No, I mean they're pretty big.
Yeah, they're big. Like if you
And
put
that's
them from floor to, they'll come up to your knees at least, if not past your knees, and then kind of be as about as wide as or wider than a human. So these are big
right.
boxes. I mean,
Yes,
these
and you have to
shipping, these
store
are not
many of
small
these.
things.
For
Many,
each study,
yes.
you're storing many, and then the lab kits, and then if you have 5 studies and you're storing paper docs, so it's a lot of binders. So yeah, you're going to
Right.
utilize a lot of space.
Yeah, and that's not to mention that's just like the combo boxes, the lab kits. They'll send the drug. You need space for the drug. There's a
Yep,
lot
all of that,
that goes into this.
all of that.
This is actually
Yep,
like a big problem in the industry, and sites when they're brand new, they kind of underestimate just how much stuff
how
they're
much
going to be
space?
sent for one
Yep,
study, right?
yep, absolutely. And
Okay,
then,
IP. Or go ahead. What you were gonna say?
well, I was just going to say there's additional equipment space needed too. I mean, you have centrifuges, you have freezers and refrigerators, storage boxes for the drug, storage containers. So yeah, lots of space needed.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So there's a lot. I mean, we have a we have a site tour on our blog, theclinicaltrialsguru.com. There's a tab that says Open Clinic, Get Equipment. On there, there's a tour of Chris and I walking through one of our sites, so you can get an idea of like kind of what you're gonna get. Um, Investigational product, very important. Okay. Sites that make sure that sites must make sure that the investigational product is stored and secured appropriately. This means it's double locked, temperature controlled, restricted access. You're trying to avoid temperature excursions. You're trying to avoid people who are not authorized to be in there and possibly mess with the IP.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be SOPs on this. There needs to be SOPs on the restricted access, on the double locked. There needs to be SOPs on who's dispensing, who's on the delegation log, who's allowed to get into the IP room, etc. And also, IP takes up a lot of space. Another thing to consider: the investigational product space itself, whether they are blister packs, pill bottles, devices, which take even more space, biologics. You know, you need to think of how you're going to secure this, and some of them need to be ambient, some of them need to be refrigerated. So then you need to have refrigerated space. So there's a lot to consider here as well, and this is something that the monitor is going to be looking at. One of the first things they're going to look at when they tour your site at a site selection visit, besides
Mm-hmm.
having enough space, is it appropriate space what you have. So securing the investigational product, they're going to look at the drug storage area for sure. uh, this is what monitors are trained to do you for the site selection visits. Any
Yep,
other
follow
slide?
those check boxes. Yeah, there's one more, I think. Might be two more.
Equipment calibration, everyone's favorite. Monitors will look at this also. Okay, they may even ask you for a log of your most recent calibrations of the equipment. Any vendor, or I shouldn't say any reputable vendor that comes to calibrate your equipment not only puts stickers on the equipment, but needs to provide you with a log or an itinerary or something in regards to what was calibrated, specifically which equipment. Because just putting a sticker on the equipment it's not going to cut it. You know, the monitor is going to look for
Well,
the calibration logs.
some monitors are okay with just stickers, but yes, they're supposed to collect a log, and most do, but not all.
Right, but wouldn't it be better to prepare them for the worst?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure they're supposed to collect logs. I'm just thinking, my experience, some monitors are a little bit lazy, so they
they'll
don't bother.
assume.
But
They'll assume. Well, you
yep,
know what happens in those cases when the monitors don't do it? Uh, they'll request it later because they submit
well,
their
that does
report.
happen. Sure.
Yeah, they'll submit their report. Maybe they forgot, and then their lead CRA is gonna say, or someone from Trial Master File is gonna say, "Hey, we need the logs, the calibration log." And so, like a few
hmm
days later, maybe, or maybe even a week later, they'll call the site and ask them, "Hey, I
Sure.
forgot to collect the calibration log." But you're right. They don't. You're not guaranteed that they're gonna ask you for the calibration log, but they are gonna look, and it is a box on their site selection visit report to check the calibration of the equipment.
hmm
So if you're a new site or a new employee at a site, you need to make sure that this is there. And if your vendor is not providing you a log, I suggest you request one from them. I mean,
Yep,
it's one thing. A sticker doesn't prove anything, right?
that's right.
Having a
You
sticker on
will.
equipment doesn't prove doesn't prove much.
You'll definitely want the certificate, the log. All
That's
right.
right. And then what kind of equipment
So
must be calibrated? I mean, literally everything, right? Like, what's your rule for what gets calibrated and what doesn't?
if it's used in research, it better be calibrated. If it's like
Right.
anything mechanical in any way,
So somebody asked, what about the clock that we keep in the laboratory? Like where we record
no.
what time we drew blood, what time we checked vitals. And that was my initial answer was no. But then they asked, well, how do we know that the time is correct? Maybe the clock
Accurate.
is off.
Well, because you're not utilizing a nuclear clock, right? So that would need to be calibrated, I would assume. But any clock, you can change the time on it. So since you have that capability of changing the time, it could always be wrong, right? When you do the Pacific, well, not Pacific, when you do daylight time, you have to
Yeah,
change the
daylight
clock
savings.
anyhow, right?
Hmm.
So you have to change the clock twice a year. So it's not good. I think they just accept that it's not going to be exact, but it it more boils down to, are you using the same clock for the same purpose each time? I would say that's more important. For example, every time you take blood pressure, if there's a time reading, I would say it's more important that you're using the same clock opposed to different clocks. It's like a radar, right? Where you're getting the same bias each
Right.
time, or the same whatever you would want to call it. Bias is what's coming to mind for me, but um, where the clock will always read the same, right?
Yeah,
If
consistency,
it's
I guess.
if it
Greater
yes,
consistency.
consistency. Yeah, there you go. Radar consistency. Same with the clock. Clock consistency. If it's off by 5 minutes, if your clock's off by 5 minutes, if you're using the same one each time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, see, I guess was it nuclear clock? I mean, the one, those digital ones, I think they're called something else, but maybe they're called nuclear clocks, uh, or universal clock or something like that. But basically, those, it's good to have those in your lab or wherever you're drawing blood. Um, and they sell them like at McKesson. You can buy them through McKesson, or you can get them at Staples. I mean, you can get them anywhere. To be on the safe side, you should just calibrate the clocks too, in my opinion.
So I would definitely agree with that and say a phase 1 study in which the PK sampling and the timing of it's very important.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a big deal it is in a phase 2 or 3 study. I've never seen anybody make an issue with it, and I can't really think of
I
outside
haven't
of
either. I've
maybe.
only
And
had
I
I've
mean,
had one
it's important
monitor
to
ask
Alcoa
once.
in what regard.
Yeah. I've had a monitor ask a long time ago, do you guys calibrate your clocks? And I said yes. Because I I better say yes. But since then we've been we've been doing it because what if the FDA comes in and looks? You know, you'd rather have it than not.
Sure.
That's my argument. There is you rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Okay. Well,
And
I
the
see.
term escapes me. So if we go to the next slide, I'll look at what if I think it's a universal clock or a
I
nuclear clock. I
still,
can't remember what they were called. Medical,
I
basically
still,
medical clocks.
I still think this is just my opinion that the fact that you, as the individual, a human being at the site, can change the time on the clock, I think that negates calibration, right? Because how do you know that this hasn't been touched by a human?
Yeah, how do you know
The
it
fact that
hasn't?
it's simple
Right.
to change the time. That's it. There's no more slides.
Relatively simple, yeah. I think these wall clocks, some of these hospital wall clocks are, I think they're wireless, so they connect with the Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
And you know how your phone is always accurate with the time because it's connected to GPS. I think some of these
Right.
are the same. The same. Uh,
See, that would make more
so
sense in terms of calibration. There's no calibration necessary. It's just a matter
right,
of confirming that it's the correct time. But
right.
that would make more sense.
Yeah, just something for sites to think about. I mean, you never know, and if the FDA comes in, you'd rather have it than not have it. In my opinion.
Right. All right. That's
Is
it for
that
the
it?
slide.
That's all the slides? Wow.
Yep.
What a uh short but sweet and I guess we could stop recording, but thanks everyone for watching and listening.
Bye bye.